I'm thinking about a recent story with a cat and how it basically can play a role, like with regards to a microcosm for the macro, a lesson in life that even applies to humans. Also, the long-standing debate within society regarding freedom versus security, safety. How can we have both? Is it possible? Can there be a sense of balance? Alex Answer here. Today's date is April 25th, 2019. And it was yesterday afternoon that I heard the voice come from the east. But yeah, it was basically a voice that said to the cat that if it saw the cat again, that it would shoot it. Which it's its own conversation about the viciousness of some people. But people can be a bit harsh when it comes to even animal life, trespassing, even if and so this opens up, right, a larger arena of conversation to the reality that these souls, even in animal form, not just human, the reality that we are born into, the reality of this world, this fallen world that we are born into. Born into a world not really understanding things like borders between property lines or other borders or other things, certain concepts, but simply being born into a world where there are certain constructs at play. Certain constructs at play that on one level are at war with nature. And there is the progression of things, you see, with this war on nature, which is something that we should be returning to. This discussion, as we seek to step away from those constructs that are contributing to that war on nature, as we seek to be in line with nature, individually as a solution. That is our self-responsibility. We are not responsible for the actions of others. I'm just making this short point on this note, but it really is about our own intentions. It's not necessarily about one person doing the work to convince others to do certain things to save the earth, per se. And there's more to being a truly conscious human alive today than just simply, quote-unquote, trying to save the earth. Or trying to expose corruption or something happening in a particular city. These are short-sighted understandings. But why don't people want to end a widespread destruction of foreign lands? Why don't people today desire to see that? How do we break the codes of this mystery within this matrix? Right, I'm going to continue to ponder this in our written work in the near future. Philosophically examining this disconnect from our natural intuition, which should be able to see on a larger scale that this is a significant discussion. I would see and I would document my personal life outside of YouTube how my own life would change when I centered even more on these critical important issues. Human suffering, the casualties of war, and not allowing myself to be distracted by the fast food nation element of independent media. And I look at the YouTube of today, I look at what it's recommending that I look at, and I see it for what it is. I see the Google engineers for who they are. You know, I'd like to play clips of it, but I'm just going to go ahead and recommend that you watch it on your own. that you hear out what Jesse Ventura has to say with regards to algorithms of oppression. I think that he's hitting on issues that he didn't hit on before. Wouldn't call myself a fan. Maybe he does play all sides, but the things that he's reporting on at present, you know, we've really seen a split within the research community in recent years, and he doesn't seem to be grandstanding on the dark side of the research community. Certainly not with Infowars.com. I can also see, I'm being brief on a number of different topics today. It is 7:39 in the morning. I can see how I've described RT, Russia Today, where that broadcast came from, where they're talking about algorithms from hell. There's truth and disinformation from RT. And I see the role that it has been there to play and that it is going to be there to play. And in order to be where RT, in the minds of Russia and the Kremlin, where it needs to be, it needs to, according to their strategy, continue to build their American fan base by, even now, in the modern day and age, reporting on the things that others are not. Even in some cases, MSNBC. But then do I default to some sort of trust then and see RT as my trusted news source? You need to be able to see how some corporations or news agencies or even individuals, how their role, how they position themselves to be the only one telling you a certain thing. Quite often, especially when you're dealing with big media, it is often a deception that leads to something else. Now, it is true that I talk about things that others don't, but I'm a little guy that's not working within a global media empire, nor am I someone that's reaching a lot of people. The algorithm doesn't like me, and that is not disputed. When you watch Jesse Ventura's special on this, even though RT is a part of that propaganda matrix, within that propaganda matrix, like I'm saying to you, there's truth and fiction, but sometimes it's a strong truth. And that's what they use to hook people in. What are they trying to hook people into? The idea that the West is so corrupt that anything else as the West collapses is better. Even if they themselves are running with the devil. I just want you to understand that there are media outlets that will have programs that speak against oppression, while those very media outlets and organizations are purveyors of oppression or have been in the past. And so as a result, people are confused. And ultimately, most humans at default level are at a certain level of operation and behavior. And over time, that natural human algorithm can be data mined, if you will, and then analyzed by computers. So what we're talking about with AI and their categorization and their identification of ethnic minorities in China, and then we also talk about the Chinese 5G and its ability to override whatever we got going on in the United States. Why would it not send shivers up people's spine if they were in their right mind? If they understand that if it could be done to one group, it could be done to others. If a technology ends up being weaponized, right, it may not be used against a certain group, for example, yourselves, at the moment, but what if the program was to be reprogrammed? So then, like, is it safe to go down a road where we're silent about these types of programs and algorithms and auto-suggests? In that program, the woman was discussing how the search term black girls under Google usually defaults to the adult entertainment spectrum. And so I live in a world where there's all different types of stereotypes there ready to go towards people that are going, hey, did you know that there are these shady things in the technological world on the internet. What do you know about that stuff? No, that's you, that's you. And then this type of a default, a lot of people would do that in Portland, Oregon. When people would show concern about higher levels in government having shady connections to people that have been charged with crimes relating to their dealings with minors, for example, to keep the language clean. People for years would use this type of psychology. Oh no, only people that look at that self or that level of research are really just projecting. And on one level, from a psychological perspective, projecting is done, yes, in elements of society, but maybe those are the ones that are projecting, the very projectionists themselves, the projection masters. Because ultimately we do live in this manufactured event society where people do that to others, especially people from other parts of the world. The point I'm making here is, instead of that being the issue, for some reason there's like a bug in the minds of elements of this society that doesn't have the same concern, for some reason, about young children being harmed, or people being harmed, or women being harmed. And like I've said in so many video recordings, you really see the hypocrisy when you see those follow the breadcrumbs of the fake news spectrum and matrix. They may show concern for certain children, while acting like children in other parts of the world, or refugees, are somehow less valuable as children because of who they are. Because they were born during a certain time on this planet that is supposedly having these clashes of civilization. Supposedly. He said, she said. They do one thing, this group does something else. Crips versus Bloods. So we saw in New Zealand, right? The callous attitude even on social media. And we saw the more recent event where in no way, shape, or form is there going to be, on a larger level, people questioning what they're being told. And what they're being told can include, as it did, simply a statement that this group over here did it, so it's a continuation of the same old paradigm, with no actual evidence. Just a declaration from the mainstream media. So when people say fake news, it's only when they believe it's fake news. How does something get to be fake or true when it's just in the eye of how people feel? How do you feel at the moment? Oh, I feel a little tired. Okay, that person feels tired. At the moment, how do you feel? Oh, I feel energetic. Let's go to the gym, pump iron. Well, let's do it. Then afterwards, let's go get some Chinese food. Like, how do you feel? I feel the story's true. Well, it must be true. It's just because things feel a certain way. In this context, it doesn't necessarily make it so. In a certain context or a certain perspective, okay, did it snow yesterday? That's not a relative thing. Did it snow yesterday in southern Colorado? I mean, right in this general area. That's either a yes or a no. There's not a gray area. Well, let me think about that. Because if you look at it from there, no, because it was totally sunny. Okay, were they chemtrailing up the wazoo yesterday? They weren't. It was actually a pretty damn nice day. There were some days in which they did. So some things can be quantified. What did you eat yesterday? Do you remember what you ate yesterday? Hopefully we do, but you may have to think about it for a little bit. It's not the most important thing for us to remember. And so can we quantify in a yes or no statement? Are there people acting like this is some sort of a buffet? We take what you want and leave the rest. Create your own type of understanding of what the new world order is. Create your own dystopian nightmare. Create your own adventure. Create your own, like, fake-ass way of getting out of the created nightmare. Ooh, a matrix within a matrix. Now you got Russian dolls. And that's another sad conversation that we can have, where they create, like, the fake conspiracy. Then they create, like, the fake solution out of that fake conspiracy, leading someone into a loop, into where they're going in a circle. They're going nowhere, and they're stuck inside the same conspiracy that they were never taught about from the beginning. Or maybe they learned some basic elements about the conspiracy early on, and then they kind of digressed around it. But let's kind of, like, end this sandwich with the bun of the brief details on the cat. So the cat's going to be staying inside here. And so there's this type of balance between safety and security. But in reality, by it being indoors more, instead of being outside as much as it wants, it's probably going to live longer. But sometimes we need to be, like, sharp with our intuition. And sometimes we need to do certain things in the moment. It's not necessarily a maneuver or a execution of a move that is permanent. Nothing is permanent in this reality, but something in the moment that we need to do, and perhaps our head needs to be clear enough for us to get that signal. So, yesterday I heard what was said of the cat, as if the cat understands what was said to us, as if the cat understands that its life was just threatened. I'm just, like, pondering just, you know, the vicious nature of some people that will live alongside nature, but will also be angry with elements of nature, like a cat. And so, knowing that's probably best for the cat to be inside, that is currently the plan, with a few breaks here and there when it's dark outside, when the ninja cat will be less noticed. But there's something about the nature of forms of life, because of what they are, hiding themselves in order to survive. Whether they be animal or whether they be human. Yeah, I'm Alex Ansary signing off for April 25th, 2019. If you cross beyond the boundary line, then you're in the danger zone of the outside world. And so, like, my intuition was telling me to bring the kitty in last night, whereas some nights I'll let it be out. And the cat heard it and even looked at me. After an hour of pouting, wanting to go out, we heard some cat getting viciously attacked by something out there. Something out there was attacking some other cat. And the cat's looking at me, and I'm looking at the cat, and I'm telling the cat, I told you. And the cat wasn't whining to get out the door after the fact, were you? You weren't whining then, because you're like, oh my God, there's some craziness out there. And so that's the difficult thing. It's also like with children and babies, like, hey, you know, don't get in the car with strangers. You want to be careful, your associations, safe sex or no sex. You got to be careful of the people that want to hang out with you. And it's the same thing here. You know, I got to be wary of the animals that might be attracted and want to mess with this cat, and vice versa. This cat has been spayed. And so I want to have the freedom, but not the freedom for it to blow all its 9 lives at once.